Poetry is not a luxury. It is a vital necessity of our existence. It forms the quality of the light within which we predicate our hopes and dreams toward survival and change. First made into language, then into idea, then into more tangible action, poetry is the way we help give name to the nameless so it can be thought. Audre Lorde. Welcome to the Poetry Cafe, hosted by Christ Missionary Baptist Church in Memphis, Tennessee, where the Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart is the pastor. I am Io Morton, and this is the Poetry Cafe. Here, we are taking a Sankofa approach to spoken word. We are looking back to the voices of our past and hearing the echoes of their hearts in the voices of today. This week, we have the Reverend Dr. Jamie Eady, who hails from the Queendom of Philly. She is the author of Getting Naked to Get Free, founding executive director of I Just Believe Ministries, founding president of Thoughtful Transitions. She says, I'm a grief and loss navigation specialist. I love preaching, 90s hip hop, poetry, pink lipstick, rispa, and shoes. Hear ye her.
Our ancestors still speak. Our ancestors still speak. Sometimes through hymns and spiritual songs, sometimes through hip hop and poetry, sometimes through the guitar strings and bass drums, sometimes through the dance and the sound of the trumpet. Their voices urge us to return to the rhythm in our souls that is God breathing, to the dancing in our feet that is God moving, to the fire in our belly that is God bearing witness to the sacredness of our existence. Listen, can you hear their voices? Urging us to keep fighting, to keep preaching, to keep praying, to keep marching, to keep building, to keep resisting, to keep believing. Because the journey to returning, remembering, and renewing is far from over. It will require a lot of work. We must be willing to recollect the memories of the journeys of those who have come before us. We must be willing to re-envision a society that does not negate the humanity of those who look like us. We must be willing to remove obstacles that impede justice for Black lives and brown lives, for women's lives and queer lives and trans lives and immigrant lives and Muslim lives and Palestinian lives. We must be willing to reconnect to the source of our strength. We must be willing to reclaim the richness of our heritage. We must be willing to rebuke respectability politics because bullets don't care if your pants are sagging or if you're wearing a belt. Our ancestors still speak, sometimes through hymns and spiritual songs, sometimes through hip hop and poetry, sometimes through the guitar strings and bass drums, sometimes through the dance and the sound of the trumpet. Their voices urge us to remember the rhythm in our souls that is God breathing, the dancing in our feet that is God moving, the fire in our belly that is God bearing witness to the sacredness of our existence. I hear them saying to us, in this battle, you must be willing to carry burdens that do not carry your name, knowing that for you, someone has done the same, and carry them until you've carried them over high mountains and through deep waters. You must be willing to carry them until you've carried them through the trails of the tears of our grandmothers and grandfathers. You must be willing to carry them beyond Jim and Jane Crow, burning crosses and bombed houses. You must be willing to carry them through the stench of dead bodies, shot in the street, hanging from trees, or rotting in the field in the heat of the summer sun. You must be willing to carry them beyond mass incarceration, beyond misogyny, beyond sexual exploitation. You must be willing to carry them beyond sexism, racism, classism, xenophobia, homophobia. You must be willing to carry them beyond the streets of Ferguson, beyond the clubs in Orlando, beyond the sidewalks in Brooklyn, beyond the jails in Waller County, beyond the parks in Chicago, beyond the cars in Falcon Heights, beyond the police wagons in Baltimore. You must be willing to carry them until you've carried them from broken and bloodied and bruised to whole, to healed, to mended, to resurrected, from despair to hope, to freedom, to joy. But do not be deceived. God has given you everything you need, but this battle will indeed make you weary. Your eyes will tear, your heart might ache, your knees might buckle from the weight of trying to remain true to your authentic self with African roots in what seems like designated white-only spaces. But don't you dare forget that in you is the strength of 1,000,000 ancestors. In you is spirit pumping resilience through your veins. In you is creativity and the ability to call the stars by name. In you is the power of Harriet's shotgun. In you is the fierceness of Nat Turner. In you is Ida's pen and Sojourner's truth. In you is Frederick's speech and Rosa's refusal. In you, beloved, is genius. In you is the 1,000 times victory. So don't be discouraged. Be resuscitated as God breathes into you new life. Don't be discouraged. Be revived as God ignites in you a new passion for justice. Don't be discouraged. Be renewed as God transforms your mind. Don't be discouraged. Be restored as God heals those hurting and wounded places. And if you need a sign, just look to the hills from whence cometh your help. If you need a sign, just look to your roots, which are planted by the rivers of water. If you need a sign, just look toward the table God has prepared for you, even in the presence of your enemies. And listen to the voices of our ancestors. Can you hear them? Can you hear them? Our ancestors still speak, sometimes through hymns and spiritual songs, sometimes through hip hop and poetry, sometimes through the guitar strings and bass drums, sometimes through the dance and the sound of the trumpet. Their voices urge us to be renewed by the rhythm in our souls that is God breathing, by the dancing in our feet that is God moving, by the fire in our belly that is God bearing witness to the sacredness of our existence. Our ancestors still speak.
This has been the Poetry Cafe. I am your host, Ayo Morton. Thanks to CMBC. Thanks to Reverend Dr. Jamie Edie. Thanks to you for being with us. Until next week, be safe, be blessed, and most importantly, be you. Peace, y'all.